Vasudevaya. So, theme I've been given for this month is anger and forgiveness. So I think we're not here on Easter Sunday in Whangamata, so that only 3 weeks or weekends. So today we're going to look at anger, its cause and its effect. And then the second one we'll do next week is anger and love as polar opposites. And then the Sunday after Easter we'll be doing forgiveness as the cure for anger. Everybody agrees that it's better to be more spiritual than less spiritual. It's better to be more spiritual and more materialistic. But if we aspire to live a more spiritual existence, a more spiritual life, which means a life also that produces happiness and fulfillment, there are certain things that are horribly inconsistent with that. One of them is anger. A person who is spiritually realized or making advancement spiritually, because of that, they will be fundamentally devoid of anger. But it is not that a person should wait until they are more spiritually developed or spiritually advanced and then seek to not manifest anger. But it is actually important, if you want your life to be better, to seek to not be angry. Anger has a really destructive effect on us. Some people are like angry so often they think, what's the big deal? But just because you get used to something and you get used to that headspace, that situation of being in that world and it constantly experiencing and manifesting it, it doesn't mean that it's okay. It doesn't mean that it's not hurting you. Of course, it hurts those around us. It is actually highly destructive and is completely inconsistent with living a spiritual life. In the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the most famous yoga texts or spiritual texts from the ancient Vedic civilization, says that anger, lust, and when I say lust here, we're talking about intense self-centeredness, intense selfishness, that's usually equated with the bad aspects of sexual activity, lustfulness. But it actually is more refined than that. That is like an expression of intense selfishness. Lust, anger, and greed are categorized as the gateways to hell. And we're not talking about hell as necessarily some other location or some other place people go to after death. No, it's way more profound than that. One's experience of life, their current life, can become utterly hellish as a result of these three things. And so the need to really consider anger, to really spend a bit of time thinking about it and looking at it in relation to my life is really important. When we talk about anger or something unpleasant, there's this general tendency to immediately think of somebody that's, for instance, expressed anger towards us, and we think of that as the example. But what we're speaking about here is ourself. Don't worry about anybody else and what they may be doing or not doing to you. We should think about ourself. We cannot control others, but we have a great deal of opportunity to exercise control of ourself. Anger is like one of the most useless expressions. Does it ever produce good? Does it ever produce peacefulness? Does it ever produce beauty? Does it ever produce happiness? I mean, those things are worth having. Anger doesn't produce anything like that. Anger brings division. It brings tremendous unhappiness. People usually use it as a go-to to either try and get something that they want, or to experience frustrations. And in both of those situations where somebody uses anger to try and get what they want, I come home, I don't like the way the house looks, I don't like the way somebody is acting or speaking or doing something, and so I express anger because I want to change that. The problem is that's the underlying motive, but I don't even think about it that clearly. If I thought about it that clearly, I would realize my expression of anger is not giving me what I want. Even if a person temporarily curbs some activity or speech or something that I don't like, it doesn't make me happy. It doesn't create any permanent change in anyone. All it does is damage relationships and make things worse. It's like the worst possible go-to or tool to try and make your life better. It has exactly the opposite effect. Expressing anger will always cause a breakdown in relationship. Always. You cannot have a healthy and caring, a productive relationship if one of the serious ingredients in that is anger. It's counterproductive. We seek and desire relationship. Even a person who has just been disappointed their whole life, from the time that they were a kid, their parents betrayed them or let them down or got put in jail or were drug addicts or something or gave them up. or they were taken away by child and family services and put into some foster home, and they felt like they weren't loved, and people picked on them at school, and it's just like, even a person that their whole life has been one of damaged relationships still seeks an ideal relationship. Relationships are really important. Spiritual relationships this is a big topic, but this is the ideal that we desire and seek. And while we may desire this, and it's actually more important to us than we're willing to admit. I was talking to a guy up north. He did about 19 years for murder. He was Mr. Mayhem himself, full face tats and everything. And his life has gone through a substantial transformation. He was a high-ranking member of a gang and everything, and killed so many people. We were having a conversation about love, and I asked him how difficult it was to come to that position of admitting that you actually really need love in your life. And he said it's like really difficult. But once you get to that point, your whole life begins to change, because you realize this is desirable, it's important, it's a really wonderful foundation for your life and how you're going to live. But there has to be the recognition that a lot of our behaviors are counterproductive to producing that which we really desire and seek. The yogis, they had a whole different perspective on yoga. The Vedic teachings, they talk about where anger comes from. They actually say another person cannot and does not make you angry. I mean, is that a far out idea or what? Because we always think about, oh, that person just pissed me off. I was so upset, I was so angry or whatever. And I always like to lay it at somebody else's doorstep. My anger is somebody else's fault. In reality, anger is a condition of your own heart. It is a condition of your own consciousness. And when it resides there, all somebody has to do is poke you in a certain way, verbally, physically, whatever. Just touch you in a certain way. And what's already residing within the heart just rips out. Become a roaring maniac, right? A banshee or whatever. It's because it is coming actually from our own heart. And to embrace this understanding, to really take hold of that, is like, whoa, this really changes your life in the most positive and wonderful way. So in the Vedas, it speaks to the fact that the actual cause of anger stems from selfishness. It begins when I am contemplating, as they describe, upon the objects of the senses. I want this, I would like to do this. Anything I can see, smell, touch, taste, feel, when I'm constantly meditating on those things, which we're all encouraged to do in the modern world. This is what the modern world is all about. What it does, it develops within me this intense attachment, the idea of having this thing. That's the product of my meditating upon it. From that initial desire comes this intense desire, which is categorized as lust. This intense, it's just about me and what I want. And from this intense selfish desire, where it's just about me and my wants, anger will automatically arise. You cannot live in a world of selfish focus, just meditating on all the stuff that you want, all the people or the experiences or whatever that you want and you feel you need or deserve or desire. If you spend your life just focused there, the natural outcome will be anger. And it will be there for two reasons. Either I want something really badly and I can't get it. Whether it's for my dog to come home, for the house to look nice, a relationship that's not working out, a disappointment, a broken heart. Yeah, everything falls into this category. But when it's about me and what I want, either I'm going to be frustrated in my attempts to get these things, and that now becomes a seething bed of anger that begins to grow within me. Or I will get the things I desire and then feel that this is not enough. This is not fulfilling me. This is not everything. I mean, it's just like so crazy. The way people conduct themselves in relationships, just simply by looking at an external package, we develop an intense desire to have that person or to have a relationship with that person. And we don't even know what's inside. We're not even skilled. We're not even taught to look a little bit deeper beyond the gift wrapping. What's really inside the box? So I get all focused that this person is going to make me happy. This is the most perfect person. This is everything I've been looking for. And then I move in with that person, or we get really close. And then I start seeing all these things that I don't like. And I discover that they're not the perfect person I expected, or they're not fulfilling me in the way I wanted to be fulfilled. And so then I start getting upset, and I start getting angry. And it just like, then everything just begins to come unglued. If we really, there will be so many things that we talk about here that if it's the first time you've heard them, either it's going to be like, what was that? Just like goes right over your head. That was my experience when I began this journey many years ago. Or you will be introduced to ideas that you have not heard before, and they may even challenge what you currently have accepted or believe. And I ask you in all sincerity and earnestness and humility, don't just turn it off. Don't just dismiss it because it doesn't sit with what your belief system is, or what you hold to be true, or your way of seeing things. The people that gave us this knowledge, they acted for one reason only, out of enormous compassion. Compassion for the suffering condition of all living beings. And they wanted to find a way to relieve their unhappiness. They wanted all people to become happy. Not just a certain group of people that I may identify with or get along with or like. They wanted all people to become happy. To that end, they have codified these teachings that are incredible, they're so profound. And if we mention something that's like, whoa, never thought of that or never heard of anything like that, just take it in, take a deep breath and keep going. Take time. I mean, what we're talking about here, the difference between material life and spiritual life, is a revolution of the heart. The direction that you're going in, you're going to be encouraged to make a U-turn and head in a completely opposite direction. At least for many people, it will be like that. So, anger as something that is incredibly destructive, and it is inconsistent with us being peaceful and happy. One of the things that we really have to learn to do is when it begins to rise up, we have to learn to hit the pause button. In the yogic teachings, they speak about a unique faculty that we have and often don't use. In Sanskrit, it's called buddhi, or intelligence. Actually, it's spiritual intelligence. It's kind of like you can be in the middle of the most heated argument, and there's a little voice in your head saying, don't go there, don't say that, don't do that. And our tendency is to ignore it and do it anyway. That little voice is actually your buddhi, your intelligence. It is a faculty that is higher and is superior to your mind. And learning how to exercise it is one of the most important things that you can do if you want to come to experience happiness and fulfillment. When you don't do it, when you just become enraged or you become swept away by anger, even if you think that the other person you're angry at and fighting with did something worse, don't worry about them and what they're doing. Look at yourself and your situations. In anger, you will say things and you will do things that you will regret. You cannot say good things in anger. You cannot do good things in anger. And it requires that you are utterly blind to your spiritual being. Utterly blind. When a person is overwhelmed with anger, they are so caught up in everything that is external and the temporary material world, which can never fulfill us anyway. We're so lost in that. There is not even the tiniest glimpse of spiritual existence. There is no knowledge of the soul. We are utterly spiritually blind in this moment. And so going down this path, learning to exercise that control, learning to hit the pause button and step back and say, look, I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm not in a good space. I mean, it's so ridiculous. When people fight and somebody gets angry and criticizes someone else, and the first thing the person does is say, yeah, what about you? Last week you were... And it's like, what are you doing? if you have some things that are sort of upsetting you, you know, in relation to the way another person is behaving, why do you wait until there is an argument to start trying to discuss it? Do you really think that's going to work? But isn't that what we do? And the fact that we do it shows you how incredibly unintelligent we are when this is going on. So learning to exercise control of anger will make it so that you don't do and say things in life that you will come to regret. The saddest thing is when people lie on their deathbed and they feel, I should never have said that to that person, I should never have done that. I mean, we're talking about the moment of death, the completion of life in this body. That person's about to leave it, and they cannot undo things. And too many people experience this. So that's about as far as we'll go today. The message is, anger is a product of your own values, what you're holding to be important, and how you are living. If you are living a life that is not open, loving, compassionate, generous, and caring, if you are living a life of self-centeredness, to the degree that you are self-centered, to that degree you will manifest, you will experience anger. It blinds you. It damages, even destroys relationship. It eliminates the opportunity, the possibility of peacefulness. There's so many reasons to try and do something about it. It is within your power. But you must learn, even just in baby steps, to exercise control. So over the next 2 talks, we'll take this a little bit further and look at solutions and ways of dealing with stuff, and how to come to a position where anger becomes insignificant and hopefully becomes eliminated in our life. Okay? Thank you very much. So we'll chant the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra. Thank you very much.